Hello, assalamu alaikum guys. Today we are going to be start with the design of steel bridges, lecture number 6. Today we are going to be solve an example problem. Again, that is not a design problem. This is example problem. Example 9.2. 9.1 we have discussed in lecture number 5, and in lecture number 6 and 7 we will discuss by parts example 9.2. So this is from your book Steel Structures by Dr. Zahid Ahmed Siddiqui, chapter number 9 and second example. So we are going to be start with the problem statement in which we have to design an exterior stringers, interior stringers and floor beams for a single span truss bridge. The span of the bridge is 45.6 meters. The curb to curb roadway width is 9.2 meters with the 0.9 meter wide footpaths, curbs and barriers on each side. The slab thickness is 175 millimeter and the loading is HL93. Besides a concrete bearing surface of 15 millimeter, provide allowance for 75 millimeter thick bituminous overlay. Weight of the curbs, railing etc. on exterior girder specifically be considered as 2 kilonewtons per meter. So while we will calculate the dead load for the exterior girder, there we have to be include that component also, the weight of that component, including the curb, weight of the curb and railing and other components. Use FC prime 30 megapascals, FY 420 megapascal and the structural steel of A3060 grade. So this data seems to be including the difference between example 9.1 and this example 9.2 majorly seems to be the difference of the floor beams. Now the type of the bridge has been changed. Last time we have discussed only the beam girder bridge. Okay, now we are going to be discuss the another type of the beam in which the floor beams are there. This is particularly the plate girder bridge. Okay, so this is going to be called as this type of the bridge in which the load path in such a way that first of all load comes on the deck, okay, and then from the deck the load has been transferred, mean your deck is supported on stringers and your stringers are supported on the floor beams and your floor beams on both of the sides literally are resting on the plate girder. Okay, so finally from the both ends of the plate girder, literally those are going to be shifting their load on the plate girder and from the plate girder towards the abutments or piers, transom and pier or the abutments. Okay, so here it seems to be giving you a only single spanned bridge. Okay, so why I am saying it as a plate girder bridge, because for your course and for your syllabus, for your final term, we are not discussing the design for the truss supported main supported element, truss as a main supported element for the plate girder bridge. Okay, we are going to be replacing our truss with the plate girder on both sides. This is the difference. Okay, and you have to be mold your example 9.1 in such a way that the last step will be the design of a plate girder, not the design of the truss. Okay, so this truss design for the steel bridges are not included. It is not part of your course. Okay, but we are solving the example number 9.2 till the design of the floor beams like it is given in the book. Okay, so we can start with the design of the the deck slab, then design of the exterior stringer, design of the interior stringer, design of the floor beams. So the four components will remain same. Okay, deck slab, interior stringer and floor beam. Only the difference will be in the design of your this truss. Okay, so in this example the floor beams are resting on the panel points of the truss. Okay, and then finally the trusses are needed to be designed. But for your case, you have to replace your trusses with the plate girder on the same at the same distances as of your panel points, and you have to design your plate girder because that design of the plate girder you have done earlier. Also in example number 9.1, we didn't go for the design of the plate girder because you have done it earlier. Okay, only what you have to do, you have to be design your stringers as a plate girder or simple beam. Okay, it was the beam girder, it was not going to be called as the plate girder, it was simple beam girder or girder bridge. So if the girder bridge or the beam bridge be there, then the stringers exterior or interior needed to be designed as simple beams. Okay, so there in example number 9.1 you didn't design the plate girder specifically, but now for example 9.1, what you have to do, the stringers you have to design as a simple beams, but the plate girders finally as a last step of the design of the steel bridge you have to design as the plate girder. Okay, so this is the plate girder bridge, the type is different. So in this way the two main supporting elements are plate girder and in between are the stringers, those are the simple beams. Okay, and floor beams also are simple, are the kind of a simple beams. So rest things are just the information, those are required to design your bridge, girder and your span, etc. Okay, so here it is given that your panel points for the truss are 6 at 7.6 meter each. Okay, so here your from whole side, so if you are going to be draw it laterally, then here the floor beams are resting and we are designing it as a plate girder. Similarly, you have to suppose that your floor beams are spanning inside the plate girder at 7.6 meter distance or space. Okay, so the spacing between the floor beams will be 7.6 meter. So similarly you have to design your plate girder by considering the floor beams resting on the plate girder with the same spacing at the same points. So the next slide will give you a clear description for the plate girder bridge. Okay, mean you are going to be having the plate girders on both sides. In between, along the vehicular direction, moving vehicle direction, traffic direction, you have the stringer, the smaller beams, and these stringers are attached or connected or going to be resting or going to be transferring their loads on the floor beams, and your floor beams are transferring the loads towards the main girder. Okay, so above it is the bridge deck. So your deck slab is putting its load on the stringer. From the stringer it's transferring towards along the longitudinal side towards the floor beams, and from the floor beams literally on the plate girder. Okay, so this will be the point on the plate girder where the spacing of the floor beams are ending from center to center. That is given in your example problem 7.6. So in this way you have to design, not design the truss girder bridge, you have to design the plate girder bridge. So this is the schematic diagram for your case. So there is no intermediate pier, 45.6 meter total span. Okay, so here are the abutments. Those are only shown, you are not required over here to design the abutments. Just the intermediate part is needed to be designed, steel bridge part. This is going to be having a span. So the span for the plate girder, 2 plate girders on both sides and intermediate stringers, it is the same. Okay, and this is total 9.2 roadway width, and 11 is likewise because the abutment, the barrier, the footpath and the sidewalk, it is 0.9 meter overhang, you can say. Okay, so it is 0.9 on both of the sides. So 0.9 plus 0.9, it will be 1.8, 1.8 plus 9.2 will be 11. So from edge to edge it will be 11 meter total width. So here you have abutments, you have the wing wall. So if you are going to be compare this with your girder bridge, so what is here, this part is going to be replaced with the girder. So if a truss bridge, so here the truss, 2 trusses needed to be placed over here, and here at each panel point 7.6 meter you may have the floor beams resting on the plate girder. So this part, lecture number 6, is not going to be giving you any extra information than the design of the interior and the exterior girder, stringers, as example number 9.1. Okay, so I'm going to be repeat all of the steps just. So like your chapter number 5, stepwise you have to move for the design of first interior and then exterior. And after the load analysis, you have to be compute the MU and VU for interior and exterior. And out of the MU of exterior and interior stringers, the greater one will be the design value for MU, and from VU, out of both of interior and exterior stringer, the larger one will be the design value for VU for shear. Okay, so for shear and the moment, you have to take out the design value, and then based on those design values, you have to be give the same design for the exterior and the interior beam. So only one design is required at the end for the stringers, and only one section is required as in beam for your exterior and interior. But it is recommended in AASHTO and in all of the specification that separately you have to do the analysis. Okay, so for that we are going to be start with the first of all arrangement of the beams. So it is given you that 35 to 40%. We have also discussed in the lecture number 5 that we have to provide an overhang. Okay, that is 35 to 45% of the inner spacing of the beam to get nearly the same forces on the exterior and interior beam. So then the usual range is 1.5 to 3 meter. That's what we already know. And now we can set the spacing, mean the S value we can set as in conclusion. So if the inner spaces are assumed equal to 3, so first we can start with assuming the number of the spacing equal to 3 and number of the girders, total stringers, equal to 4. The spacing of the inner beam S may be found as follows. So continuing with that, this is 0.8s, mean 40% of the spacing, inner spacing provided as an overhang on both of the sides. So it gives you 0.8s. 3s is the number of the spacing, and we know that total width in between we have to provide the stringer. It is 11,000. Okay, mean 11 meters. So 11,000 millimeters. So you are getting by solving this scenario the spacing equal to 2895 millimeter. So it is very closer to the maximum limit that is 3 meter. So what we can do, we can check it for revising it by increasing the number of the spacing. Okay, so here we can check it for the 4 at first. If it will be less than 1.5, then we can go for it. It will be okay. Okay, so it is on a higher side, so we can check it by revising it by increasing only one spacing. So if we are going to be increase one spacing, mean by keeping it as 4s and number of the stringers, those are 5. Okay, then it comes out to be 2292, and we are rounding it up at greater value, so it will be 2300. So it is almost reasonable. Okay, from 1.5 to 3, so it is almost the average number, so we can go for it. And also it is recommended for the designing of the number or deciding about the number of the stringers. It is recommended that the odd number of the stringers are recommended generally because the odd numbers are going to give you the equal distribution of the load along the lateral side. So here let's suppose this is the first one. For your case, this example is also going to give you the total number of the stringers 5. So 1, 2, 3. The third number is coming just at the half of the roadway width. So in this way, the design of the deck slab and the design of the stringers, mean the distribution of the load is very easier. So what we can do, we can place the lateral dimensional, mean the lateral distribution, by placing the vehicular loads equally on both of the sides. Okay, so it is going to give you for the interior girder, the design analysis will be easier, and the load distribution on both of the sides of the roadway width on the stringers will be same. So we prefer generally the specification, but it doesn't matter, you can go for the even number also. We can design it anyhow, but preferably the odd numbers are preferred. So we have checked the odd numbers, and those are good. Okay, we're giving you a reasonable answer for the spacing, that is 2300 millimeter. Then comes the overhang. So it's already given, it's 0.9 meter. So as always, we need a schematic diagram, the cross-sectional view of all of the spacing, the result you have done. So 2.3 and number of the stringers are 5. So 1, 2 between the roadway width, 4 and 5. Okay, so curve dimension, here you are providing the footpath, and then is the barrier, it is the curve, including this curve, including the sideway and the footpath also for this example, and that particular load you have to be given, it is given in the numerical problem. So it is 0.9 meters on both of the sides. So it is also an overhang for the exterior girder. Okay, and your exterior girder is, the center of the exterior girder is just lying at the edge of the curve. Okay. Then come design of the reinforced concrete deck slab. All of the procedures are the same. First of all, you have to calculate the depth by using this formula we have used earlier. That value comes out to be 177, and we have rounded it up at the larger side. It is 180 millimeter. So it should be greater than 175. First of all, it's satisfied at this limit, and then you have to be rounded up on larger side. So you have to add the 15 millimeter bearing surface. Okay, again rounding it on the higher side, it gives you 195 millimeter. Okay, so for the cantilever overhang, a greater depth may be usually required due to the provision of resistance. This is the same consideration we have done also in example number 9.1, and for that part we are considering the thickness as 230 millimeter. But all of the consideration later on for the depth of the slab and for the stringer load calculations, we will consider it as 195. Okay, this will be the final depth. Then comes the conditions for the empirical design. So the same step and the same you can say list of the conditions you have to satisfy. So the first one is the effective span of the slab, the same criteria, 2300 is the spacing, and you have to assume the BF of the selected section approximately 10% of the center to center span. So that will give you 2070 millimeter, and that is going to be satisfy your condition, that is 4100 millimeter. So here you have to add OK in any case. That should be very prominent in your calculations. Okay, OK sign for this particular condition. Second is the SE over H. Okay, span, effective span to depth ratio. So it comes out to be 11.50. It is between 6 and 18. Again, OK. Then core depth, it should be greater than 100. So it is 205 total, and you are subtracting the covers from top to bottom. It is 120 millimeters. It is greater than 100. So again, that condition is giving you the satisfied answer. Next is slab depth. It is 190, greater than 175. We already satisfied that, but still it is okay. You have to write over here OK sign. Then overhang is 900 millimeter versus 5H into depth. So it comes out to be 900 exactly. So both are same. So it will be again OK. FC prime 30 megapascal should be greater than 28 megapascal. So it will be OK. And you have to provide the minimum of the 2 shear connectors at the spacing of 600 millimeter center to center. Then if all the conditions are satisfied, we can go for the minimum requirement for the bottom layer steel and for the top layer steel. So corresponding to 0.570 millimeters square per millimeter, we get this answer for the reinforcement, and for that we are getting this. Okay, so you have to show the schematic diagram as you had done earlier, and also in the 9.1 the shear connectors were missing. Okay, that was manually drawn diagram, but there also, and in this example also, you have to show the shear connectors in any case. Those are going to be welded with the steel, the flange of the steel on this side, and it is embedded inside the concrete. Okay, so and their head is also embedded, all of the length and the head. Okay, going through the bottom cover and then the reinforcement and then going up towards. So this is all going to be designed properly. What is the head dimension of this shear connector? What is the length of the shear connector? Which part or how much length needed to be stay out from the bottom okay, needed to be connected or welded. How it is the shear connector needed to be connected with the flange of the stringer. This is all going to be designed. This is a separate design involved for the design of the shear connector. Okay, so but we are going for the empirical design. There it is said that you have to be provide. Now what about the spacing? It is mentioned that you have to provide the 600 millimeter spacing. This is in the direction lengthwise. Wait, this is the length. Actually this is the cross section, and from the center we have cut a cross section for the stringer. So if we go here, so as maybe sometimes I have also told you, so here this flange is a continuously resting on the slab. This is a steel beam. So this is the flange thickness that is running parallel like this. Sorry, it's not giving you the same dimension because I am doing it with the cursor. So this is the flange. Okay, I am just exaggerating the dimension just to show you. Okay, like this. So this 600 millimeter is along the length, along the span of the bridge. So this is continuous flange, but at the 600 millimeter distance, again you need to provide a shear connector, 2 shear connectors. Then again at 600 millimeter you have to provide 2 more shear connectors. So this 600 millimeter is the distance or the spacing center to center from the center of the bolt to the center of the bolt. Means shear connector. Bolt is shear connector. So from center of the shear connector to the center of the next shear connector, because flange is continuously going on, your web is continuously going on, and your bottom flange is also continuously going to be go in this particular direction. So along the plate of the bottom top flange, you have to be provide at 600 millimeter center to center of the shear connector, you have to provide another set of the shear connector. Then again at 600 millimeter you are providing another set, then again. So throughout the span of the bridge, along the length, you have to provide these shear connectors for all of the stringers. Okay. Then comes number of the design lanes. You have the total roadway width 9.2 meters. So 3.6 is the minimum through which you have to be calculate the number. So it is the 2.56. So what we have discussed again and again the same thing. We have to take out only the integer part from this equation, and this integer part is 2. So your number of the design lanes are 2. Stringer self weight, that also almost 10%, maximum of 10%. So on safer side we can take 10%, but this is 7 to 10%. Dead weight of the slab and the bearing surface, that we will consider in the later stage. Now for the stringer, after the number of the lanes and arrangement of the stringer beams, now we have to go for the lateral calculations, mean lateral display load distribution. For that we need the simple contribution factor. Okay, so this G, so this is lateral distribution factors actually. So these we needed, all are the same. So for that, in the formula we have kg over LTS cube, that we are considering 1 as in example 9.1 for the initial designers, for the beginners, which is on the conservative side, consider it as, and also recommended for by the H2 specification that you can use it as a beginner. So your spacing is 2300 and total span is 7.6. So you can use in this equation and you can get it for the movement at first for 1 design lane load, and then for 2, mean 2 or more than 2. So for 2 and more design lane loaded, you are going to be getting it as 0.760. So out of these two, 1 design lanes loaded and 2 or more designs lane loaded, you have to be finalized or the governed one values, the dominant mean larger one, and here it is 0.760, that is from the 2 or more design lanes loaded. Keep this G factor with you, as what I have told you that you will get the G factor 4 values. Okay, so this is the first one, that for the movement Okay, you are getting the larger value for the interior stringer. Similarly, for the interior stringer, one design lane loaded, so you are getting 0.663. For interior stringer, 2 or more design lane loaded, you get 0.793. This is going to be dominate, larger value. So it governs, keep it with you. So now two things are there, like your example 9.1, you can go for calculating these factors, lateral distribution factor for the exterior also at this stage, or what you can do, these are with you, you can go at first for the load calculation or load analysis for the interior, and then you can go for the exterior. So it's up to you. So here sequence is that after getting the lateral distribution factors, we are moving towards the dead loads calculation. So your dead load includes the deck slab load, as we have discussed earlier, and the stringer self weight, only two components. So deck slab dimensions are with us. Okay, so you can just input the values with the densities of the concrete and you can get your answer. For the stringer, you have assumed the 10% of it, so the 10% of it will be 1.06. So adding both, you are getting 11.62. So this concrete deck slab load, you are going to be getting the movement against this load and the shear against this load. So your movement comes out to be 83.90 and your shear will be 44.16. Now for the bearing surface, we have again 75 millimeter asphalt paving. So for that you can input with the density 22 and it comes out to be 3.80, same as we have calculated earlier in example 9.1. So you can get your MDW and VDW, shear and the moment. Then comes the maximum forces due to the lane load. It's 9.3 always same, only the span is going to be changed. So here it is 7.6. So you are going to be getting those by inputting the values. So it comes out to be these answers. Now next is same. You have to do the live load analysis by using the standard axle load and tandem load. So for the maximum truck load forces, mean axle loads, you can input now the only you can say the difference is that your span is 7.6 meter. If you are going to be try to put 3 wheels, rear and front, both rear 2 and front 1, if you want to put on the stringer, so in that particular span it is not going to be accommodate. It's 7.6 meter. Okay, so 7.6 meter in lateral direction, so it is not going to be fixed those in lateral. So you have to go for any two, you have to select the 2 wheels. Okay, so because in between the wheels, the distance between the wheels are 4.3, so 4.3 plus 4.3 will be 8.6, so it is greater than 7.6. so only in that particular span you can accommodate 2 wheels. So we are preferring now the rear wheels for that live load analysis, maximum effect of the live load in the lateral direction. We are in that particular longitudinal direction, and that we are considering it as the larger one, 145. So here the maximum effect has been calculated by ILD. You will do it by yourself for the movement first. So for the movement, the diagram for the ILD will be like this. So you have to arrange your wheels in such a way that you are going to get the maximum answer. So here also the near to the center on both of the sides you will get the maximum ordinates. So you have to adjust your wheels so that the maximum answer you will get. So any position you can select by yourself. Here one of the position is given. If you will get your answer in any other location or position, you can report that. So this is not the final answer. So okay, so if any one student, this is any one option. Okay, so you can you can change the option, you can change the distance, and you can go for your answer. Similarly, for the shear, it is the maximum ordinate. So there is no other option for the shear case, because the maximum ordinate is always 1. It is on extreme side, and you are putting your 2 wheels only, because third wheel will be outside the span. Okay, so only 2 wheels are possible to put on the stringer. So here 145, 145, 4.3 is the internal distance. So here you are getting the 1 wheel on the maximum ordinate and 1 on the other side. There is no other option for the shear. So from the axle and tandem, 1 needed to be selected. Larger one is the for the shear, this axle load. Then comes tandem load, 110 kilonewton meters, 110 kilonewton internal distance is 1.8, and you can put it again in anywhere in between, and you can get the answer. Maximum effect. So it is given from the tandem, it's 354.6 kilonewton meter, and for shear it is 202.7. So out of tandem and axle, shear and movement, you get the maximum effect. So for that you can go directly towards the moment and the shear equations to getting the maximum life plus the impact forces. So you have to incorporate that 1.33 factor impact, and you have to be incorporate the lateral live load distribution factor into it, and you have to do the longitudinal distribution. So as I have told you that this step is the longitudinal distribution. So here you're getting 409.5, and I have explained well in example 9.1 about this equation. Here I'm not explaining it in detail. So 247.5 for the shear and 409.5 for the moment. Then we talk about the load combinations, and also we have discussed it earlier in detail. So mu and vu, you are getting it. This is these values, keep these values with you, so that by following the same steps we can do the node analysis for the exterior, and then out of exterior and interior, mu and vu, larger one is going to be selected as a design value. Now the same steps for the exterior stringer design. Spacing and the span is given. Now only matters over here DE, the edge distance. Okay, so this distance in this case is 0, as at the start I have told you. Okay, so you can input to calculate the E. Okay, so that value should be greater than equal to 1, and you are getting equal to 1, it will be okay. Because this DE is equal to 0, so that factor will be equal to 0. We will get only 0.77. It is less than 1, so at least equal to 1 you have to take. So E will be 1. So finally, this is simply the lever rule. Okay, so where you are going to input the footpath, this is edge of the curve, that is exactly at the center. 900 is the overhang. Here the reaction is needed to be calculated, mean the effect of all of the loads from both of the sides on the exterior stringer is needed to be calculated. So we can take as first interior, and that pivot point over here for calculation of the movement. So if we are going to be considering it that, so within that particular limit of 2300 spacing, that wheel will be out. Okay, so for the loading, we will be going to be fix the 600 from edge of the curve and center of the first wheel. That should be 600 millimeter. So P by 2 we are considering, and 1.8 meter is the internal distance between the two axles. So here it is going to be going outside. So if we are going to be keeping this limit, so only that wheel and that reaction. So you are getting using the lever rule, and by writing the equation for the movements for all of the reaction and the applied load, and again the relationship between R and P established by using this interrelated factor, that is 0.30. And is what I have told you, that factor is very important, because in between, due to the applied loading, the reaction has been affected with this particular factor. Okay, so if the ratio of the applied load and the reaction will be the same, okay, then what does it mean? That your exterior stringer is not going to be affected by the applied loading, wheel loading, and by the barrier loads that the wheel overhang load that is on other side. But this is not the case. Your exterior stringer is dominantly affected here, although the factor is lesser, it is 0.370. Okay, so but still it is there. Okay, that your applied loading is going to affect the reaction on the stringer, going to be affect its design by this factor. So that factor is needed to be incorporated for the lateral live load distribution, and this is going to give you the G factor by multiplying this relationship or this factor with the multiple presence factor for one lane, that is always 1.2, and you're getting 0.444. Keep this value with you. For 2 or more design lane loads loaded, E is needed to be multiplied with the G of the interior. Okay, for 2 or more design lane loads. So go back and take this value for the from the interior stringer design and lateral load live load distribution factor. That will be for the G interior stringer, and for the 2 or more design lane loaded. So it is need to be multiplied with the E that you have already calculated. It's 1, and you are getting 0.760. So this is why we are getting the same. Okay, it should be more expected. Okay, we are expecting that it should be greater than this value because this is an exterior girder, but as we have planned it to be keep it just at the edge of the curve, center of the exterior, so that is going to give you a more stable design. So that's what we are getting lesser. So your E is also 1, it's not more than 1. So similarly, you have the distribution factor from the lever rule for the shear. This is the same, but for the 2 or more design lane loads, you have to go for it. The E equation has been changed. Okay, so now it will be 0.6. So it will be 0.476, and it is going to be governed for 2 or more design lane loads. Now that is going to give you almost the same figure diagram, in which for the exterior stringer we have to calculate the dead load forces. Here the components are changed as compared or increased as compared to example 9.1. The deck slab is remain same. I mean for DC part, previously it was only 2 components, deck slab and the stringer, these 2 first and last. But here in between now for the exterior stringer those are increased. So for the exterior stringer you have to consider the overhang, you have to consider the barrier, and if the footpath and the curb and the railing roads will be there, you have to incorporate. Okay, so this is also given. So for that, one by one you can incorporate the values. You have to be input the values with respect to the span multiplied by the span in the lateral in the cross sectional dimension, and you have to multiply it with the density. Okay, so here you can see for the deck slab it's 0.195, the thickness 2.3 is the simple spacing. Okay, here the deck slab. Okay, so 2.3 is actual spacing, and this is the ratio of the spacing from actually for the exterior stringer and to the actual spacing 2300. For the overhang also you can see its thickness, and this is the overhang part you can see. So this is its actual total dimension, that is 900.9. 23.5 is the density, and this is the ratio of the span that you are considering, effective span that you are considering, that is 2750. So from the start of, from the center of the overhang till the interior stringer, actually this is the effective all part. Okay, from edge to this. So for each and every individual component you have to go for it, the center you have to locate. So for the slab, just for that particular part, this slab is needed to be considered. So center of it will be from the center of the first interior stringer, it is 1150. So this ratio from the total span, total length for the this slab is 2300, and out of this the ratio is 1150 divided by 2300. That is the effective one needed to be considered for the exterior girder. Similarly for the overhang, it is 2750 from the center of the just overhanged part, okay, till the center of the first interior girder. Okay, and but its actual length is 900, that you have to be considered over here, and this ratio is over here. So that with this particular ratio, the effective overhang depth center, you are going to be putting its effect on the exterior girder from both of the sides. And then comes the barrier. Barrier having that is, you have to assume. In the previous example, the volume, or mean the area approximately was given to you, but here you can select the rectangular barrier. It's not inclined at the end, because here the properly designed curb and footpath is there. So what you can do, you can design your barrier, concrete barrier, like a rectangular one. Okay, so with a height of 600 millimeter appropriate, and 100 millimeter width. Okay, so with this particular way, the effective load of this barrier that needed to be assumed or considered for the exterior stringer, that will be 31,500. Okay, in this particular direction. So 31,500 will be the center of the barrier till the first interior stringer, and divided by 2300, that will remain same, that is the spacing. Okay, so for the footpath, again this is the footpath. Okay, this 800 left over, because from the 900, 100 we have fixed for the barrier, so 800 will be left for the curve and for the footpath. So for the footpath it will be 0.8, and you are taking it as 2700, mean again mid of it till that particular distance. Okay, from here till here, so that distance will be 2700. And weight of the curb and railing given in the problem, that is 2. Finally the assumed one is the 1.93. Okay, the stringer assumed equal to 10% of the above load. So just add all of these loads and take 10% of it, it will be 1.93, and adding all will give you 21.17. So keep this WDC so that we can calculate the movement and the shear. So the movement and the shear, similar for DW it's 75 millimeter, same values. So for only for that particular slab 1150. So you will get MDW and VDW. Then lane loads, similarly 9.3, movement and shear. For maximum truck loads, same as that of interior. Sidewalk live load, okay, that is an additional one, that is 3.6. In the very first slide or second slide in theoretical part of our lecture, this design of a steel structure, I have instructed you, and also it was given in the slide, if the sidewalk live load needed to be considered, it will be 3.6, only at 0.8 distance. So movement and the shear you can calculate correspondingly, keep this with you. Also, this is an additional load you have to calculate, you have to consider for the exterior stringer. So finally all of the movements and the shear you have calculated. So what you can do, you can use it for this equation. Here only that sidewalk load and additional, rest is the same. Okay, so this G factor, it is also given in our theoretical part, and I have also explained you that the sidewalk load is not needed to be incorporated in case of the lateral load distribution. Okay, lateral live load distribution, it is not multiplied with that factor. So only that lane load and the axle and tandem load is considered, and 1.3 is only with the vehicular load, not with the lane load. Okay, so this is multiplied only with that. Sidewalk is separately calculated, it is 260.03. 2 lane load in case of accidentally, so this value is very small, so in case of an accident you can consider 0.760, that was for the 2 lane in case of accident. So that's obviously going to be governed. So here on the same lines you are getting 159.47. So this is already from the load, that is from 2 or more design lane loaded, 159.47. So keep this and compare your VU and MU. I mean, first you have to go for the load combination. From the load combination it's MU and VU, and larger of exterior and interior MU and VU, the greater one will be will govern for the design of your beam. So these are the final design forces. So your assignment number 3 is you have to design the stringer for your example number 9.2. Okay, so for example 9.2 you have to design your stringer with this mu and with this v. Okay, so beam design. So this is your assignment number 3. Thank you so much, guys.